imagine. You can also be subjective depending on what kind of feature story that you're writing. So where you meaning you can like put your thoughts and emotions. Like if you're writing a travelogue, definitely that is a key aspect of writing a feature story, because you need to be able to engage with your reader, engage their senses. So you need to be able to put into words the feeling, the experience itself into your story. And then if you want to write informative feature article, like for example, you want to write about MySejahtera, for example, then you need to give useful details, okay? Feature story, one, because you have to be creative, so you have to keep in mind that you should be entertaining. Can't be boring like me. I know I'm a bit sorry. You have to be it's timeless, okay? So basically when you write the story, it lingers in the hearts of your readers. So like it's not time sensitive. Your readers can go back to it and read it again and still find it informative or entertaining, or whatever sense that you're trying to trigger from the story that you wrote, okay? So the first thing you need to do is you choose the theme of your story. Like I mentioned just now, what is the theme? Are you writing about a place? Are you writing about a person? Are you writing about an event? It's basically the so what of the story. Have the story been done before? Actually, there's nothing wrong to write a feature article that has been written before, but the challenge is what angle or what theme you want to go with. Like for example, for us, if you guys are aware about the Selangkah app by the state government, it has gone through a couple of stages where progress, okay, it's been upgraded from the start where it's only for contact tracing, and then they develop into something else. So we have written feature articles on Selangkah, like I think a couple of times already. But even though it's on the same subject, you have to know what you want to feature. That's why it's called a feature article. So basically, okay, it's a Selangkah, but maybe you can write, the first time is about contact tracing, and so the second time you write about its latest update. The third time, maybe you can write about its developer, the founder itself, or the genius behind the app. So it's okay if the story has been, like the theme has been done before, but you have to be creative to find what other angles that you can approach to it. And then you have to know whether the story would catch the interest of your audience, because feature writing is not as direct as news. News, sometimes in half an hour you can already like put up, do a story. It's very direct, but feature writing, because I say it takes creativity to write feature writing. So take the time to understand who your audience is, what are you trying to push to your audience, and whether it would actually capture the interest of your readers, right? Then you have to know whether the story will have any emotional appeal to it, right? Do you have an intention to just inform your audience, or you have the intention to make the audience feel sad, or sympathetic, or empathetic to what your subject is in the story? And then, like I said just now, the interest of the audience, what makes the story worthy of being reported? Is it something new? Would it benefit the people? Basically, there has to be something worthy in the story for you to write it, for the people to read. Okay, so basically the theme is it answers to the question, so what? So what? Like, what is it that you want to write that would actually interest the audience. And then after that, you have the lead. So the lead is basically the start. Usually, is the first and second para of the story. In news, is very direct. You can just directly just say, okay, the federal government today announced blah 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 blah. But feature writing, you cannot do that. Okay, and writing a summary is not the best way to start your lead. For example, if you want to write just now about Sri Lanka, and you just write a summary, oh, Sri Lanka is an app that blah 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 blah. No, that is like you writing a maybe if you want to write a pamphlet ke, a news like macam memo ke boleh lah. You want to write something macam tu kan. But it like I mentioned just now, it's not about adding new elements to your story. Feature story, our focus is not about new elements. News, yes, but not feature. But it's how you set the mood. How do you entice your readers to get them to want to read further into the story? So if you look, okay, I give you example lah. Okay, for example, the story I cakap pasal baca anak bulan tu. The headline is All Eyes on the Moon. So All Eyes on the Moon, we are talking about tengok anak bulan, all eyes on the moon. So it really like macam summarizes really nicely what the story is about without really saying what is the story. Okay, so you start the story, it goes each year more than 1 billion Muslims around the world start a much awaited month of fasting at the first sight of the Ramadan crescent moon. In conjunction with the holy month and the upcoming Shawwal this year, Selangor Journal met with Selangor Mufti Dato' Anhar Opir to discuss the tradition and science of moon sightings, a practice that is essential to determining the key dates of the Islamic Hijri calendar. So it's an introduction, but not a summary. You don't summarize what you're trying to say in your lead, the two or three first paragraph. Sometimes you can start with a quote. Maybe if the quote is strong enough, you can start with a quote, but not all the time, you know. Okay, and then after that, you go to the nut graph. Nut graph is basically in a nutshell. Okay, so usually after the lead, it explains the reason of why the story is being written. Basically, the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first 4 to 5 paragraph of your feature story is very crucial. Like how you want to get the reader to understand what the story is about without giving too much detail into it, but at the same time able to get them attracted enough to say, oh, I want to know more. Okay, especially like, okay, contoh lah, for us at Selangor Journal, like I said, a lot of our stories are what you call that, are policy related stories kan. Even our feature stories, sometimes we're like promoting the state government punya initiatives and whatnot, and it can be a bit dull. The subject itself can be a bit dull, but how you want to entice the reader, that's the challenge in the first few paragraphs. So usually in the nut graph, sometimes you boleh masukkan quote of the person you're interviewing, right? Like macam contoh story, kalau story I tak boleh nak tunjuk, tapi tak apa. Macam story yang pasal ni, it goes the 5th paragraph baru macam we explain a bit. Okay, we explain, okay, Hijri calendar ni macam ni, and then moon sightings apa tu dekat Malaysia since bila tau, and then you masuk quote, and then you go on. Sorry, sometimes what you can do in feature writing is you can have subheadings as well. So subheadings ni nanti dia dia rangkumkan like a certain sub-themes for your story. For example, the story we wrote on the late Saiful Bahari. So we start, okay, cerita macam, okay, pasal negaraku sikit, and then Saiful Bahari dia dah compose what songs, apa semua, tapi, and then we mention in conjunction with National Day, we spoke to his daughter. So we start a subheading, his life. So this part, okay, kita cakap sikit pasal his personal life, his past life, apa semua. And then the next subhead is Malaysian journey. So di sini we talk about his journey coming from Jakarta to Malaysia. Okay, what he went through apa semua. And then the last part is first Patriot and then bittersweet memories. So the daughter is actually not very happy because despite the contributions of her late father, she feels that the family is not being what you call that, being recognized accordingly now. So during the interview, she did rant a bit lah. Like, complain. Kalau news story, that is the first thing you lead lah. You cakap lah, oh, government tak membantu jasa Saiful Bahari dan keluarganya, blah 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 blah. Tapi in feature story, tak, you have to know, okay, kita fokus kepada apa. This story pasal apa? This story is mainly about National Day. So tak boleh lah kita nak highlight complaints kan. So kita tulis pasal his life, his journey, his contributions, and then kita selitkan juga what are their concerns, because these concerns are legit, you know, and in a way we can be a voice for them, because sometimes if they feel unheard, so through our stories we can lend them a voice. So where was I? Okay, yeah, so that is basically the theme, the lead, and the nut graph. Is that clear? Yeah? Okay. All right. Then after that, okay, thank you. And then after that, we talk about the body of the feature. So this one, this is where you put everything together lah. So it's to educate, whether it's to educate, to entertain, or to create emotional ties with the audience, the subject and the audience. This goes in the middle, the body part of the story. So this could include background information, it could include other aspects as well, but all the details is here. Usually the challenge for feature writing, if you ask me, is the first 5 para. How you want to lead your story, your nut graph, because like for example, I share with you, even with years of experience in journalism and years of experience writing news, if you are not able to grasp that creativity, the ability to word your story, you won't be able to write a good feature piece. And this is I'm speaking from my own observation. Okay, so macam kalau you masuk dalam media ni, yes, we are not all writers. There are broadcasters, apa semua. But when we are talking about the writers, yes, we write. But when we write, not all of us are able to write a feature story well, because dia punya kekurangan tu dekat creativity tu. Sometimes I get copies yang macam direct je, macam news piece tau, dia tulis dia punya lead, and I'll get a headache because that is not how you write a feature piece kan. So you have to karang balik, and usually is the first 5 para. Bila you nak buat feature story ni kan, first 5 para tu you akan macam, okay, macam mana aku nak start, how do I start this story to be able to attract, and then barulah the flow of the story comes, you know. So if you ask me, the challenge is in the beginning of the piece. Okay? Yeah, clear? All right, can we move to the next part? Okay, so like I said just now, body of the feature, so it would include background information. So background information, it could keep the audience updated. You and then you also story flow or thread. Okay, this is how you connect the dot, putting the pieces together. Like I mentioned just now, like for example, the Saiful Bahari story. You want to connect the dot. How? So you create subheadings, and you're allowed to do that. So so it doesn't look like macam your story is too fragmented. Kejap cakap pasal ni, and then you jump to this. When you write when you have a subhead, things are a lot more. It's easier to piece your information together, you know. And then you have dialogue, quotes. Okay, quotes is actually important, especially if the story is an interview. Kan? Bila is an interview, a piece where you interview, tak kisahlah you interview pasal a person, or you interview about a place, or you interview about something, a thing ke, or project ke, apa ke, you need to include quotes because the paragraphs of your, basically the main body, your lead, apa semua is already sentences that has been paraphrased. It's not like a quote, conversational punya penulisan kan. So you include dialogues. When you include dialogues, you include the voice. It keeps the story moving. Okay. And then it gives some sense of accuracy because it's saying that, okay, this is coming from the person. All right. And then you, like I said, it establishes a voice. Okay. When we talk, okay, background information tadi macam I cakap, okay, a paragraph of background, okay, yang tu ni lah kan, thread, connecting the beginning, the body and the conclusion. Yang tu the flow lah, macam I mentioned just now. The conclusion, jangan tulis, okay, in short, okay, no. You need to, for example, if I go back to story, because I dah mention dari awal kan, so I'll just go back to the story yang pasal anak bulan tu. We ended with what? We ended the story with how how the Mufti said that, okay, there's a possibility they can meet, and then we just put a one-liner saying, okay, when this happens, okay, a new month officially commences and Muslim will herald the arrival of Shawwal and begins the joyous celebration of Aidil Fitri. The end. Macam tu. So you don't summarize whether it's the beginning of your story or the ending of your story. Jangan conclude like macam mana you write a conclusion for academic paper. So basically the key is creativity lah. If you ask me, macam you need to know how to like end it with like macam a bit of a bang, so to say. So okay. All right, so the thread, okay, it can be about a single person or it can be about an event, a thing, and it has to highlight the theme. Jangan lari jauh daripada your theme. Okay, jangan nanti you cakap pasal Saiful Bahari sekali you masuk cerita pasal Sultan pula. Tu dah macam lari tema. So you stick to the theme. It helps if you stick to what information you have in hand, unless you perlu ada background punya information nak tambah sikit, you boleh, but do not run far from your theme. Okay. Okay, when we talk about establishing a voice, to me kalau in news lah, you can establish a voice kan, basically a signature or a personal style of yourself, tapi try to make it subtle, because kalau if it's travelog, yes, usually kalau travelog ni, if you are a travel writer, you have your style, and when people read it, they can know macam, oh, they can read it in your voice. It's the same like if you watch travelogs on TV, can different people they record it differently, so it's the same, but this is in a written form. But usually when you write feature, we can tell how this writer writes and how another writer writes. They do have their own, because like we say, you use your own creativity and you ada you punya lenggok sendiri. Okay. Alright. Next. Alright. Okay, I forgot to ni. Okay. Wrapping up the story. Okay. So you want to, when you want to wrap the story, basically don't summarize, but link it back to the introduction. Okay. You can link it back to the intro if you want. You can end it with a quotation, or it can be a climax like I mentioned just now, kan? So often a feature ends where the lead started. Yeah. So that like how I mentioned just now lah. If the beginning is about membaca Anak Bulan, then it ends with that. But you can always end a feature story with a quote. There's no issue with that. Okay. Alright, for example, macam, yeah. Okay. And, okay, so just now, like I said, okay, how to make a good feature story, you have to remember, be creative, you can be subjective, be informative, entertaining, and timeless. But the most important part is creative. How usually it helps when you read a lot of other feature articles, you will get an idea of how to do it. You will understand of how to write these stories without so much of using like sorry lah, my terms untuk grammar ni I tak ingat sangat, tapi macam you don't use I, you faham tak? You don't use that. More or less how you write news writing, tapi with more detail. Okay. All right. Okay, these are some writing samples that I can show you. If you can click on the link, I think it will open the link. Okay. Okay, so this is a story on Sultan Kelantan. Okay, so basically Sultan Kelantan ni dia tak semesra Sultan Pahang lah, the Agong sekarang ni. Jadi when he was going to become the Agong, to get an interview with him is basically impossible. Jadi you have to talk to the people who were closest to him. So this story is about the butler. I think he's like a butler, but basically he's an umbrella bearer. So he's been in the family for 3 generations, if I'm not mistaken. 3 generations since his grandfather. Yeah. So as you can see, start the story dengan the quote, because the quote is quite strong. That is what he said. Like, you know, when we interview him, he said, okay, dekat mana ada tuanku, kat situ ada Pok Ya. Okay, so we start off with that quote so that it hits the audience punya interest to go on further to read the article. All right, and then you go into the detail, not so much about, you have to introduce the subject, and then you also get him to talk about the theme, which is actually the main theme is the Sultan himself lah, kan? Alright. Okay, this is one of the example. The other one is yang I mentioned just now, that is more towards analytical feature. Okay. Can we open the second link, please? Okay. This is based on yang Perhimpunan Agong, where for the first time we see UMNO and PAS combine bersama. So three things. Okay, you want to write analysis, tapi you bagi tahu lah awal-awal. Okay, three things you learn about this event, and then you start off macam okay, about their apa tu, dia orang punya cooperation, and then you go into what was featured during, or what you can see lah. Okay, so basically these are just examples that I can give. There's a lot of examples out there that you can have a look at. Especially nowadays, news agencies, a lot of it focus on feature punya ni, because they want to, human interest stories captures the audience quite a lot, because sometimes people are just tired of reading soft news, so they prefer to go into the soft news, which is like feature articles lah. Okay, and I think that wraps up my presentation for today. Okay. If you guys have anything to ask.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah, our show has already come to an end. So a lot of knowledge has been shared by our speaker today. So now I would like to give all the participants an opportunity to ask questions to our speakers on our comment section. And I will read it and our speaker gonna answer it. If you guys have, let's put the question.
What are the characteristics of a good feature that you can share in the perspective of editor?
Yes.
Okay, like I mentioned just now, your first five, what you call that? First 5 paragraph is very important. A good feature is something that when you read it, it captures your attention. So this one, tak kisahlah whether you're an editor ke apa, when you read, macam, oh, I want to know more. Okay, so to me, as an editor, that is what I look at feature article, because usually when I get copies on feature article, I'll get so frustrated when the first 5 para is very dull, because if I don't want to read it, then you get what I mean. So you have to. It doesn't have to be like, ooh, so nice. Tapi it's just how you formulate your sentences to be able to capture your audience. That means when you write, you have to, when you see it, you'll know that, okay, people want to read more. But if you write and you read it yourself, you find like, oh, this is so boring, then that basically is not a good feature. Like if you yourself won't find it interesting. Does that answer your question? Because feature article ni very subjective. It depends on your creativity kan. Tapi at the same time, you will still know what is a good feature and what is not a good feature. More or less like you would know what is a good book kan. Kalau you baca textbook, you tahulah textbook is like how. But sometimes there are people who are able to write textbook in a very interesting and creative manner to capture the readers instead of the direct, very informative punya apa tu format kan. So yeah, it really depends on creativity. How to improve your creativity is the best way is actually to read. Yeah, read as many feature articles as you can, especially if you get a theme. Let's say you want to do something, you want to write on something, a certain topic, you try to look at other articles on the same topic and try to get an idea how to write it, so that you can you yourself can develop that skill as well. It takes practice, and it really you have to be able to open up yourself to want to learn other styles. It's because the problem with some writers is they think, okay, I write like this, so I don't want to write differently, you know, like, okay, I write news, so when I write picture also, I write picture like news, so cannot. Okay, you have to know, you have to open up yourself and be able to want to learn new ways of writing the story. Okay.
So have any of you guys have other questions? I don't think so. Okay, so we proceed. Okay. Alhamdulillah, our workshop has come to an end. I would like to thank everyone for giving a good support throughout our workshop today. And don't forget, do fill up the feedback form on the comment section, and you can get the link there. So before we end, we will have photography session for memories. So I would like to invite